Hi guys, it's Kuno and I'm back with another video. So today the topic will be Sandville, and my motivation for making this video is that there's been a lot of Sandville seen recently, like in the Advanced Cup Semifinals, Tamahome versus Linear, and also in the Catalyst Invitational 4 play-ins. So I want to address two questions, which is it really uncompetitive? And even if it's competitive, is it really cheese? Okay, so, well, in short, my position is that I'm going to refrain from talking about its competitiveness, but I think that reliable strategies do exist, and by that I mean that it's not something that depends on just a single miss or a single hit. Now, yes, I mean most games do turn out that way, but what I mean is that over the course of a long game, you eventually just get one free turn from a miss, and you can really exploit that. And I say reliable because I managed to top the ladder with it, and although the ladder may not be the place where people look for the most serious games, topping the ladder it surely needs consistency, and you're not going to top the ladder with a team that's relying on like 80% chances, or rather a single 80% chance, for example. Now, I will say though that Gligar has a remarkable way of turning things around, and in fact, I will show you a replay of the Pokemon Perfect League semifinals between Gacu and Shortage, where Gacu kind of made a play that wasn't too optimal, and Shortage was in favor of winning the game. But as you will see later on, Gligar just cleaned. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into the team. So in this team, I'm going to use both Cacturne and Gligar, and now people tend to use Cacturne as a spiker. While there's nothing absolutely wrong with that, I feel that it's kind of strange when you can't do anything to the stuff that you force the switch on, like say Blissey, Snorlax, Tyranitar. To really harass these guys, you're more reliant on stuff like Leech Seed. I mean, Hidden Power Duck basically doesn't do anything to them. And Leech Seed can easily miss, it has limited PP, and even if you manage to harass your opponent and now you get a free turn, great, you lay spikes, but you lose momentum because once your sub gets hit, you didn't do much in return. So I feel that Cacturne's much better as a spikes abuser than a spiker, and it's gonna do that through Focus Punch. Focus Punch is really good with Sandville and Substitute. I mean, it's coming off that base 115 attack. And also, it helps you to hit the stuff I mentioned earlier, Blissey, Curslax, Tyranitar. Not only that though, it helps you to make progress also against Fortress, Skarmory. It's really important, especially if you don't have Magneton. It also 2-hit KOs Aerodactyl, and hits a bunch of other stuff like Jirachi and Flygon. And finally, it also ensures Duck Trio doesn't try to take its chances to KO you, by surviving your Hidden Power Dark. So Cacturne, just like Gligar, the Sandville ones, need a HP that's a multiple of 16 plus 1. And that's because that number allows you to use Substitute 5 times, which is really important because every extra substitute you get, you get an extra miss, it compounds. It adds up to a total of 6 opportunities to get a miss, and the chance of hitting 100% accurate move through Sandville 6 times is about a quarter. So it's already pretty low, but as you'll soon see, I have tools to make that even lower. Now, Cacturne is mostly switching into bulky waters and say Blissey, so you really want it to take Ice Beam, and that's what the near maximum special defense is for. It also helps against stuff like Gengar and Zapdos, So I don't really think it has much of a use for defense. it's pretty much going to get KO'd by all the bulky stuff, which are slower than Cacturn anyway. So yeah, we're going to pump all the EVs in special defense and speed. Okay, let's move on to Gligar. So I think that Gligar is something like a DD Mans and a Flygon combined, both defensively and offensively. Now, Flygon, because, well, its interesting typing lets it be a Zap pivot, it's not Tar weak, and also it gets a Stab EQ. But like DD Mans, it's a setup sweeper that gets one-shotted by waters, but with a dance, it gets really threatening. So it's not just in the offensive aspect, but also defensively. You know, you send DD Mans into Heracross and offensive Celebi. I mean, you send it into defense Celebi too, but that's not the only thing you can send against defense Celebi. So you see, the interesting thing about Heracross is that these teams usually don't have Skarmory. So you don't really need Magneton. And that's the same philosophy I'm going to use with Gligar over here. You know, you basically can do something like a matchup division, divide and conquer stuff over here. And that's really important because if I'm not using Cacturn for spikes, I want an extra spiker, and if I want Gligar, I won't have space for Mag. So for example, say I have Skarmag, Gligar plus Cacturn. Now I need a special wall, Blissey, and finally Tyranitar. There's no space for any rock resistance over here. So the idea is to divide the matchups where Gligar is useless, and you know, take those matchups with Cacturn, which leads me into the Gligar plus Cacturn synergy. So as I said, Gligar is basically stopped by defensive waters, assuming you don't you don't get all the misses with Sandville. But Cacturn is perfectly fine with that. And so, you know, there's that synergy over there. And of course, if I want to play the long game, I'm expected to need at least a spinner. So I'm going to use Fortress as both the spiker and the spinner. Okay, now with Fortress comes Pursuit Tyranitar, and finally I need my special wall and my rock resist, and that would be Blissey and Swampert. Okay, so let's talk about Fortress. Now, Fortress really needs a move to hit Skarmory here. Now, usually we would put Explosion as the 4th move on Fortress, but if you look at the team, it's just not the best at really hitting Skarm. So I'm going to use Hidden Power Fire instead. And Hidden Power Fire is actually good for making progress, not just against Skarm, but also against Gengar. And that's because Pursuit Tyranitar does not one-hit KO Gengar with Pursuit on the Switch. So let's talk about Tyranitar then. So usually you have Fire Blast if you need a move to hit Skarmory. And because I want to help Gligar to sweep, I'm also giving Tyranitar Hidden Power Grass. But for the last move, I'm not going to use Crunch, which is what people usually use on 4E teams. Instead, I'm going to go with Thunder Wave. And that has actually a few uses here. The first is that Thunder Wave works really well with Sandville. Now I said that it's roughly 25% for missing a 100 for hitting 100% accuracy move through Sandville through 6 turns. But with T-Wave, that drops to like 4.7%. So it's a really big difference. And it's what makes Sandville reliable in these circumstances. Now, another thing is that Thunder Wave Tyranitar actually divides the matchup for the team to deal with different kinds of Jirachi. What I mean is that Wish Jirachi and Super Rachi, they don't have substitute, so they can be T-waved, and then Cacturn and Gligar can basically try to get the Hexfish with them. Whereas for Sabrachi, we can try to Fire Blast it down and take it down with Blissey. So Jirachi is particularly important to deal with because it's known as a stall breaker, and stall breakers, rely on, getting past slower mons, and this team is clearly very slow. So having something like T-Wave immensely helps also to deal with these stall breakers. And now note that because I'm lacking crunch on this, I'm definitely not going to be as robust against Gengar as a typical Pursuit Tar. So that actually makes for another important case with HP Fire Fury, because it helps you to get the last KO on Gengar, which otherwise can be really annoying for Gligar. Okay, so let's go to Blissey. Now, I'm just going to use the standard Softball and Seismic Toss Blissey. Already, I'm not good versus the Calm Mind users, so I probably need Seismic Toss to deal with that. But, okay, the third move can usually be Counter or Ice Beam to deal with Duck Trio. Usually on Pursuit Tar teams, you would frequently see Counter because, well, you don't need Ice Beam to hit Gengar. But in this case, I've dropped Crunch on Tyranitar, and I don't have Wish yet. Okay, so it's not like I can keep Tyranitar alive forever. So I'm going to be safe and use Ice Beam on Blissey instead of Counter. So that definitely helps against Special Defense Gengar. Now, as I've said, I'm weak against the Calm Mind users, Jirachi and Celebi, all these stall breakers. So I'm going to tech Blissey with Sing. So Sing is kind of a last-ditch effort. Well, you can, it's not the most reliable move with 55% accuracy, but at least it helps to deal with the Calm Mind users temporarily, so that the phaser can, roar it out. And apart from that, this team, from the looks of it, also doesn't have an easy way to overcome stalls, like recover stalls, rest Zapdos. So yeah, stuff like rest Zapdos and Milotic. So by using Sing, you get the opportunity to perhaps land a max sleep on them, makes them more easier to take down. Okay, let's go to Swampert. Now, it has to be a defensive Swampert on this kind of team. But I really need a phaser. I don't have one on this team right now, so I'm going to put Roar on it. Helps against the slapped setup sweepers. Yep, slapped by Blissey. And I also am going to use Refresh on it because I can't drive out the toxic stallers like Milotic or Blissey easily. And that's important because, well, I only have Natural Cure on Blissey. There's a potential to completely neuter my Sandville mons with Toxic. So I definitely need to be able to pivot around that. So on this kind of Swampert, you would typically use Surf as the last move. But instead, I'm going to go for Hydro Pump. And the reason for that is I'm really weak against mixed Tyranitar. Any kind of mixed Tyranitar, DD Tar with Hidden Power Grass, or just full special attack Tyranitar. And that's especially because I don't have counter on Blissey. So I want to get the one-hit KOs in case I get into Torrent range, for example. Now, even if I miss, it's still okay, I think, because I have Gligar and T-Wave Tar. So that helps. Now, I'm also using Hydro Pump because Swampert is not meant to be the primary staller, which is Cacturn. So I don't especially need that much PP on Swampert, I think. Now, if you look at the EVs, It's definitely less defensive, but more specially defensive than a typical Swampert. And that's because I just don't want to immediately lose to DD HP Grass Tyranitar. So this amount of special bug basically lets you survive 2 HP grasses for sure. So one good thing finally about Ice Beam on Blissey compared to Swampert is that, well, I mean, Swampert's mono water, can't hit Salamence, can't do anything to it, so at least Blissey is going to help deal with, DD-mans. Okay, finally, I am going to use Hidden Power Flying on Gligar because I can't deal with Heracross, and because I'm not going for max speed over here, I am going to just use the best EVs distributed across all stats. Again, 8 HP is used to get to a multiple of 16 plus 1. So let's summarize this team. Now, by using Cacturn and Gligar but without Magneton, I'm exposing myself to Skarmory a little compared to conventional Gligar teams. But since I have a separate Spiker in Fortress, I'm able to use Focus Punch on Cacturn, so that provides a little more breaking power against Skarmory. And also Fortress has Hidden Power Fire for that same reason. And with Thunder Wave on Tyranitar, I'm hoping to exploit Sandville, and Sing helps to deal with all the stuff that traditional stalls like Cacturn Sandville teams are not good versus, like Jirachi. And finally, Swampert's there for the exact same reason with Roar and Refresh. So that's the team. We have Swampert with just Mono Hydro Pump and Roar and Refresh. We have Hidden Power Fire Fortress, Thunder Wave Tyranitar, Sing Blissey, Focus Punch Cacturn, and a run-of-the-mill Gligar. So let's move on to the featured battles. Okay, so I want to feature this game of Gacu vs Shortage in the Pokemon Perfect League Semifinals Tiebreaker. Now Gacu is using my Cacturn Gligar team, and Shortage is using a 4E Double Water team. So I'm just going to show you the lineups right at the end. So that's just to get a sense of like the players' decision-making process. Yeah, we're just waiting for it to load here. Okay, so Shortage is using a typical 4A lineup, except that for the double waters, he actually has Endeavor Swampert instead of conventional Swampert. And for Gachu, well, he's just using my team. And the funny thing about this game is that I did mention I thought Sandville was pretty consistent. Now, Gachu had a huge lead in the early game, and I think he would have comfortably won if a single misplay wasn't made. But because of that misplay, it was very probable that Shortage won the game. But Gligar does Gligar things, and that's perhaps what's crazy about it. Like Sandville can either win games or lose games. You can never make like a 100% end game plan for such things. So let's dive right into it. Okay, so now Gachu goes for the Hydro Pump on Lead Tar, and that goes into Suicune. Not much you can infer yet, could be like some Jirachi stuff behind. But yeah, he goes for the 4E and reveals a Pert. And usually I would not go for a Roar that early in the game just to hide Swampert's moveset. But I think that, it's good in this case because it revealed an extra Pokemon, right? So it's clearly some kind of 4E team. And all Shortage can infer is that, well, I have, it's it's a lead Swampert that has Roar, and he can probably calculate the Hydro Pump damage to determine that it's defensive. So it's very likely that Gacu is using a 4E team himself. Okay. Yeah, because the other kind of lead Swampert teams would be like physical offense stuff, you know. Okay, now indeed, Gachu just doubles the 4E in on Suicune, and now it's a 4E mirror, and the HP fire tag really comes in nicely here. So Gachu makes a really nice series of plays in which he just wears Fortress down with HP fire, and it's kind of funny that although Shortage has a Gengar, he's not revealing it yet. Maybe he just wants the surprise of it. Yeah, I personally find that interesting because I would keep a Fortress, especially if I can explode on something later on. It could be useful. Okay, now at this point, we see that Gachu brings Blissey in against Tyranitar, and it's kind of obvious that this is a Pursuit Tyranitar, but I guess he's also taking the chance that this is a Tar without Brick Break, because Brick Break is primarily aimed at Blissey, but he has a Suicune which can probably outstall Blissey anyway. So yeah, I mean it's a lower probability. I mean, these guys could be phasers, so Tyranitar doesn't necessarily need Roar. It could fit Brick Break, but Gachu went for that. It's safe. He can soft ball it on the next turn. They'll just check for Brick Break, and understandably, Shortage just wants to do a little scouting before he decides on bringing anything else. So Gachu uses Sing here, and typically I would not, I would not go for the Sing that early in the game, but it's a prudent choice because we don't really know what status moves Blissey's gonna have. So either Gachu could just Seismic Toss this and try to bait Blissey doing something, or he could be proactive right away. It's not wise to go to, say, Cacturn before you figure out if Blissey is going to use something. It's not like the odds for Cacturn at this point are really good anyway. So yeah, Tyranitar reveals Roar, which is good. It means that can't really damage my team. So let's think about the lineup over here. So Gachu basically revealed somewhat of a standard 4E team, and at this point, Shortage, he has two ways to win the game. Now, one way is to possibly wear Blissey down, and through wearing Blissey down, he can try to put a lot of pressure with Gengar. Because he can do that with Endeavor Swampert. Endeavor Swampert can wear Blissey down. Or the other way is that if he expects Gachu to have, like, say, a Gengar behind. I mean, Gachu doesn't, of course, but he could try to get the Emperor to break Gengar, and then use Gengar to try to Gengar plus Suicune, to try to pressure both Fortress and Blissey, and eventually, one of them breaks, and Fortress is no longer a threat to explode, and Suicune can sweep, or if Blissey is broken, then Gengar sweeps, or at least has a huge propensity to do so. I mean, the end part, what is likely to be a refresh put for him could be a problem, but really, at this stage it might be a little too early to say. Okay, so this is really interesting, right? Like, Gacu brings in Fortress thinking that, you know, it's basically a free win because he hasn't revealed Gengar and just sacked his Fortress. But Shortage brought in Gengar at a really nice point where I guess he thought that Fortress was, you know, going to be, I mean, Fortress was going to be somewhat useless in the matchup. And instead, he wanted to, you know, fool Gachu into thinking he's got the upper hand. And now, when Gachu has decided to trade spikes for a KO on Fori, you know, there's 2 layers up, and maybe he can keep up the pressure. Yeah. I mean, I still disagree with sending in, not sending Gengar in earlier, but I guess you know, it prevented. I mean, it actually spin blocked right now. Okay, so typically, special defense guard is really good against Fortress teams because Fortress can't hit even a 7% Gengar, but in this case, Fortress has HP Fire, and you will see it turns out to be an important decision later on. Decision point for Shortage, I mean. So what the Shortage is trying to go for here is just the spikes chip everywhere. It's not much that he can do immediately to Blissey. And at this point, Gachu double switches the Fortress in nicely. So he wants to get that spike on Shortage, which is safe, instead of spinning. Okay, at this point, Gachu actually spins. And this is really nice because you know, it really shows what Hidden Power Fire can do in this situation. It basically scares Gengar. You know, it forces Gengar to be careful about switching in, so Gachu takes the opportunity and is absolutely rewarded there. So this game is absolutely winning for Gachu right now. So at this point, I honestly wouldn't be so, you know, I wouldn't be so quick to act with Cacturn, because my Blissey completely walls Tyranitar, and well, the team's getting shuffled around, so Tyranitar is eventually going to lose HP, and I think that I would have gone to Blissey, but Gachu is rewarded here because he goes for a substitute and Fire Blast misses. Expectedly, right? I mean 0.85 times 0.8. And he didn't expect the Focus Punch, I guess, so that's gone. Okay, now I actually think that it is relatively important for Shortage to keep Gengar around. I mean, well, it's really difficult to say, because yeah, I think maybe he just had no choice. At this point, you know, Cactun's move hasn't been revealed, and it could very well be Needle Arm, and that would be entirely reasonable because there's Pursuit Tower behind. You don't have to be concerned about Gengar, but you know, Hidden Power Dark is really the better move over here as it hits like Salamence too. You know, otherwise, I guess Gachu could have gone to Enpert. Sorry, Shortage could have gone to Enpert and tried to, you know, Ice Beam Cacturn down. But I guess this is what Shortage was going for. He wanted the he wanted Swampert to be at maximum HP so that he could at least maximize the odds of bringing in Swampert at the correct time of the game. Like he's not directly going for the substitute, you see. So at this point, like I think it's from Gachu's perspective, it's very likely that Suicune is defensive because there's no way this team is holding up. It's so bulky. Special defense guard, Tyranitar, with Roar, right? Pursuit Tar, and your run-of-the-mill Fori and Blissey. So, yep, it can have a nifty Swampert, but the Suicune needs to be defensive for this team to have any good chances against repeated physical attacks. So, knowing that, I think that we should evaluate Cacturne to be an important Pokemon to keep. But you'll see what happens. So Gachu makes the double switch here, and to be honest, I'm not exactly sure what the point is here, because Gachu could still continue to go for Blissey, seismic tossing, and I think it would still be okay because so suppose Swampert gets in, right? Then now okay, first you want to prevent that in the first place. So any chance that Blissey gets T-Wave or is expected to seismic toss, it wouldn't be a good idea to keep Blissey in. Instead, I think that earlier, if we go 2 turns earlier, 2 or 3 turns, now I think what Gachu could have done was that since Swampert is still at high HP and there's some special defense on it, it could easily Roar to get Swampert out, and that's what I would have done, because Endeavor Swampert is right now a huge threat to the rest of Gachu's team, and I think it's a bit too much of a risk to send Cacturne in to exploit the Sandville, and instead some methodical way to take out Swampert would be the best. I mean, suppose in the worst case, right, Blissey, Swampert does come in unexpectedly on Blissey, or say Swampert draws Suicune in. I think there are still plays to be made. Like Blissey could still go into a soft boil loop, and I don't think it's necessarily easy for Swampert. If let's say our Swampert has roared and has roared Swampert in once, it'll be at 22%, and if it decides to switch out again, then when it comes in, you can just sack T-Tar and then Swampert's dead. So then you're left with Suicune and Blissey, and Blissey plus Cacturne should be enough to deal with that, especially with Sing. So I don't think there was a need to risk Cacturne over here. In any case though, Gachu actually went for the second substitute here on Cacturne, and well, Shortage expected a switch. So actually Gachu was winning here if he used Leech Seed, because not only would Cacturne get its HP back, well, Cacturne actually, I mean, it's not a good idea generally, okay, to be focus punching Blissey and sacking Cacturne, because the rest of the team can't really threaten Blissey. I mean, Gligar can, but it will have to bust through Suicune, which is not the easiest thing in the world. So I think Blissey's just eventually going to heal up. Then that's indeed what happens. So here Gacu sacks Cacturn. Okay, well, I might be wrong about Blissey healing up if the Leech Seed actually hit. But yeah, again, I don't think it's a straightforward meta at all for this combination of Pokemon to beat Rest Suicune. Okay, so the next 100 turns are basically Shortage trying to stall out Gacu and sack his mons to get and Gachu sacking all his mons so that Gligar can't be roared out. So that's what happens for a large number of turns. Okay, so here's where the fun starts. Now, Gligar interestingly gets the first miss, and that goes a long way. Okay, so the first Swords Dance is in. Yeah, I was almost sure that Shortage was winning here, but you'll see what happens. So Gachu gets another miss, and yet another, and that's enough to seal the game. I mean, yeah, so this is the kind of stuff that, I guess it's what people complain about. The fact that when Gligar gets a miss, it really snowballs. Cacturn not as much, but you can see that Gligar, by virtue of getting, 2 times the attack from just a miss, it's pretty insane. I mean, definitely people have lost to things like Rock Slide finishes, but it's Rock Slide mechanics are like part of the meta game. You can't remove Rock Slide from T-Tar. That would be kind of absurd. But yeah, you can see that Gligar's chances are actually not that great. I mean, of getting like 3 substitutes, but hey, it's also not that low either. Sorry, three misses, but it's not that low either. So Gachu wins this game, even though at some point, Cacturn could have gotten a lot more mileage, but he kind of threw that away. So, do you think that Sandville, in any extent, Gligar or Cacturn should be banned? Well, I guess this game might give you some opinions. So let's move on. Okay, so the first battle I want to share is what I consider a good matchup. So my opponent needs Mance. Now he could either HP Grass or just switch out, so I go to Fortress, covering both. Now he goes to Suicune, which isn't great for me without Sand, and there's always the chance that he might just Calm Mind here. I'm just going to go to Tyranitar to set up Sand. I know it was kind of a risky move over here. I guess I was clicking a little, but it's not completely unjustified because, if I go to Blissey first and, he gets a huge number of Calm Minds up and turns out to be a Sleep Talk Kun, now that could be really troublesome. And from the team structure, I'm not really expecting a Gengar. So I just go to Tyranitar anyway. Yep, he serves, and now I go to Blissey. And I'm just going to attempt to wear him down. Alright, so it started resting, and that's the opportunity for Cacturn to come in. Even though I don't have spikes, but the fact that it's rest without sleep talk means it's at least promising that I should be able to harass it and force it out for the moment while I scout his team. Okay, great. So that's exactly what I wanted to come in. Except I don't have spikes, I'm just going to focus punch, and you see how annoying Sandville can be sometimes if you just get that miss on the very first sub without losing any HP. So I leech seed, expecting a switch, and now both Hidden Power Dark and Focus Punch have been useful. So what makes Cacturn really hard to deal with for him is that he only has one fast Pokemon, and that's Salamence. And that Salamence, if you look at the item, well, it's clearly Choice Band. So it's not going to have many opportunities to recover, especially now that Bliss is down, so it's not going to pass Wishes anymore. Or at least it's not passing it so easily. So yeah, what did I do over here? I actually I just wanted to cover the Brick Break or the HP Grass, so I just went to Gligar before going to Bliss, especially since it's it could get crit. And well, I think over here I could have just fired off an EQ, but then I would be exposed to Salamence if something bad. I mean, if he just sends Salamence in. So Fortress is a nice mid ground over there. And I caught the Magneton because, I mean, just looking at the team structure, with Salamence, Choice Band Salamence basically screams Magneton, and also this Metagross, right? Yep, so I'm rewarded for that. Everything is going right for me this game. Yeah, so the idea here is that I first took HP Flying from Fortress, and then I wanted to trap Salamence to pursue it out. But presumably he just sent in Claydol to spin it, so I think it's still not a bad option because he knows that I'm Pursuit Tar by virtue of using Fortress, and if he attempts to spin, he's going to get KO'd by a Crunch, even though I don't have it. So that threat kind of makes it a hard decision for him. I wish he had EQ here, but he didn't. It's fine. I can still continue spamming Leech Seeds and subs with Cacturn. So one of the great things about having another move like Focus Punch is that I wouldn't run out of PP against something like Suicune, which has pressure. So it seems like it's just really hard for him over here. See, even without spikes, I have basically worn his Metagross down into range. So that's the first game. Okay, so in this second game, I'm going to show you what I think is a reasonably bad matchup. As you will soon see, my friend over here, KL, he's going to use my own CM spam team against me. And you know, my team's not the most robust against that. But, you know, with Sandville, anything can happen, right? Okay, so I actually was interested to know, you know, how well my team would do if I played a little passively, a little safely, but just go through the flow and you know, see how robust it is. I knew he had substitute based on a recent tournament game, but let's just you know, play safe for now. Okay, so as expected, he goes to Celebi, and it's starting to look like it's a Calm Mind Celebi, in which case I immediately sing it. Alright, so the most important thing is to set up Sand against these teams. So he goes for the direct Baton Pass. And at this point, I know it's an N-Pert. And there are no safe things to do over here. I mean, N-Pert basically outspeeds my whole team. If it has Ice Beam, it also hits Gligar and Cacturn really hard. So I have to basically try to predict his Ice Beams or Hydros. Unfortunately, he roars. Okay. And at this point, I just go to Cacturn trying to fish for the Hex, and indeed I am rewarded. I know he doesn't have Ice Beam now that he has roared, and now just look at this animation, it's cool. I've never seen Endeavor miss before. Alright, so one down. Now this Celebi is still a huge threat, so I'm going to rinse and repeat. Alright, again I'm going to go to Blissey. And sing. Now, I just want to make a comment over here that, you know, if I had gone for a typical Thunder Wave Blissey, then I would be entirely susceptible to Baton Pass because it makes Celebi slower, and so the target basically comes in without taking a hit at all. So Sleep is really helpful here. Yep, I go to Tyranitar to cover the switch. And wow, I did not expect him to T-Wave. Because, well, typically, you know, Pursuit Tar, it's I mean, it's winning against Zapdos, and you wouldn't expect Thunder Wave from a typical Pursuit Tar, so I'm surprised that he used a substitute, and now I'm immediately behind. Alright, this is really bad for me, and now I have to play a sequence of pivots. So yep, first to the unrevealed Gligar. Because it's more likely HP Grass than HP Ice. Now, I think it. I just danced here because I kind of know that this is my team. I'm kind of cheating a little, but the rest are like Porygon 2, Jirachi, and Magneton. Okay, so Gligar here is safe. Swords Dancing I thought was safe. Okay. Well, he goes to Porygon 2. But I just realized that Porygon 2 also trays Sandveil. And that makes it really annoying because Porygon 2 now gets recovery in Sand. So I substitute once trying to fish for a crit, but you know, that was kind of a bad idea. I should have just switched. Okay. So now is the opportunity that I get to set up spikes. But I chose not to go for it. And I think that's because now Substitute Zapdos is just so dangerous. I can't do anything against it. I'm basically on the losing end if it subs again. So I went for the double switch. At least I know Pert can survive a HP Grass and Hydro back. But he sends Magneton. And I am expecting his Magneton to be HP Fire. Not just because it's my team, but just looking at the composition, it's not a physical offense team, so it's not weak to Swampert. In fact, it wants to set up on Swampert with Celebi. So I make the double switch back to Blissey. And now you will watch a sequence that well, okay, no, so yep, I still continue to sing it, which is good. And now Raw Pert becomes useful because it's at 2 Calm Minds. No way T-Tar is taking that down. I'm going to have to roar it out. Yep, I don't really need Swampert, so I'm just sacking it. Okay, now you'll watch a sequence where the inaccuracy of Sing makes things really horrible. Yep, so I missed 2 in a row and I kind of deserve to, so I just lose or not. Okay, so I expected him to pass over here, which is why I see that, but it seems like he just got even more boost from that. So I have to make a last ditch effort of trying to T-wave the thing that comes in. But he... Yep, so I Fire Blast the first time. I want to T-wave it as it passes out. But really, there is no particularly good reason for him, apart from avoiding crits, to pass out. So I'm going to depend on all the odds that I have over here. Okay, I go to Gligar, and whatever he did, well, I was intending to make use of my chances anyway. So I am rewarded. Yep, he passes to Porygon 2, which is absolutely going to sweep me now. Especially with Sandveil. I did not do a calculation, so I had not realized that I wouldn't 2-hit KO Porygon 2. That's partially because of the leftovers recovery. Well, so I mean, if you take a look at this, I'm definitely on the losing end, and if something doesn't happen by the next substitute, I'm definitely losing this game. But I get the fortunate crit. Well, you could think of it as, you know, a replacement for one of these non-misses on the subs. Alright, so now his win con is probably the Jirachi behind. So I'm just going to try my best to wear Celebi down as much as I can, because I think I can still take on Jirachi with Cacturn if it's the set that I think it is. Yeah, so I mean, even if I didn't know the team, like, why is this a good idea? Well, the presence of Mag basically means that Jirachi doesn't really need Fire Punch, and yet it still needs to hit Tyranitar because I don't really have Tyranitar. I mean, I don't have a way of really wearing out Tyranitar that easily. So Psychic Hidden Power Grass seems like a good option, but I know in fact that's Hidden Power Water. So fortunately, Fortress is max special defense, and I am probably going to win this, I think, at this point. So HP Fire is useful over here. And I finally get a free miss on Gligar. And so, yep. Okay, so I think it was a hard matchup for me because I don't have the most robust way to deal with Calm Mind users, these stall breakers especially, but I managed to pull through with lots and lots of luck and unluck, Sing, Sandville. I mean, it's this weird thing where it just all works out in the end. The odds even out over the game, I guess. So, well, I guess that's how. I mean, you have to make use of Sandville, regardless of how robust you think the theme is. Okay. Well, now here I'm going to show you a battle where Gligar basically sweeps. I mean, it's just a matter of a single miss, and I exploit that and get the sweep with Gligar. Okay, so let's take a look. I really don't like dealing with Cloyster. I mean, it perpetually serves on Fortress, so there's not that much I can do. And you'll see that I have a huge amount of trouble with this Pokemon. Right, so I lay the first spike. Okay, so now here, expecting, I kind of have to make a read over here. Okay, so if he goes for the additional spike, right, then what I should do is try to get something that can clobber it in, like Tyranitar. But if he spins or goes to Gengar, well, okay, if he goes to Gengar, I can still, the Tyranitar switch still works. But if he serves, I'm in deep trouble. So anyway, I make the read. Okay, which is great, and I expect him to stay in. So I just HP Grass it. Okay, so I pivot to Cacturn over here, and I was kind of hoping that he would just explode over here because, well, he's faster, and I also want to use Fortress to absorb the explosion. Unfortunately, he is of the Ice Beam variant, and this is kind of the worst Cloyster to face. Now, I wanted to chip it down, but he's not letting me do that. And now my Tyranitar is basically out of commission because it took the surf just now. And this is where Ice Beam on Blissey comes in really useful. I was saying that, Pursuit Tyranitar is just not reliable over here. Well, I kind of expected him to go back to Cloyster in order to get that boom. I think he would still survive because it's a 4 times resistance on Ice Beam, and it's the only move that I can hit through Taunt. But whether he just clicked or read me for the better, I'm basically losing now because I made these wrong reads. Yeah, I was expecting him to go to Cloyster to boom again, but he didn't do anything, so yeah. Yep, I'm just slowly wearing it down then, and I'm just hoping that I can get a counter sweep. So I keep the sack. And actually, I mean, to be honest, I kind of forgot that I had Refresh Pert in my arsenal. I should have gone to it earlier instead of letting Bliss get KO'd. So that's a huge mistake I made, and I could have paid for it. But I guess not, because... Okay, not entirely, because he has this weird set, Ice Punch Giga Drain. I guess it works for dealing with, Pursuit Tar. And, well, if you have Taunt, you don't really need something to hit Skarmory. Yeah, ironically, I'm the one who's missing over here. Okay, fortunately, I made up for that with a crit. Yeah, I'm not sure what he was thinking over there. Like, I guess I was clearly using HP Dark, unless he was trying to catch me on the switch. Okay. So... Yep, I got him to boom on one of my most useless mons, so that's at least okay. So here's where all my special defense is useful. With all that investment, I'm actually living this offensive Pert's Ice Beam. So I'm looking at this Jirachi and thinking, wow, I only need 24%. That is definitely not... that's definitely a bulky Jirachi. And given that it's Ice Punch, I'm expecting, Ice Thunder coverage. It's not going to KO my Tar, so I bring it in. So I kind of thought that maybe he would switch, but he didn't. Let me see. Either that or I thought that I could simply lift the Thunder, which is why I Fire Blasted first. Yeah, I don't know, that might have been a bad move. I should have... I might have been better just T-Waving right from the start. So here I just use Hidden Power Grass because I really want this opportunity to set up on Jirachi. If not, I'm basically not winning. There's two of them, right? Two Sandville ones. Okay, so he knows he's not going to get past Gligar with that paralysis. So now all I need is one extra Swords Dance, and I'm going to be able to bring this Swampert down. So I think the chance of this happening, well, I basically had 5 tries, right? And in 5 tries, I think the chance is something like 30%, you know, to not get a miss. Yeah, so 70% to get a miss. And indeed, I was rewarded for taking that chance, and I am just going to sweep his whole team. If he had like a Zapdos instead of a Blissey, which was perfectly reasonable there, I think he definitely would have won. But you know, he was relying on Gengar for speed, and the rest of his stuff was bulky. So yeah, I guess I kind of got away with, you know, just one extra turn over here. But you can see that in my previous battles, the T-Wave ended up being an important factor in, you know, forcing the opponent to accept that this is an unsalvageable situation, forcing the sweep and getting the sword stance boost. So I think that's basically how Gligar is gonna win games. Okay, so in the last few minutes of this video, I want to show you my path to the top of the ladder. And I started with this account that was left at 1,500. And well, of all people, I had to face You Big Nap on ladder. He's the guy who likes to do this mean look pass to Perish Celebi and Encore Alakazam. Okay, so let's just go through it. Yep. Alright, it's an easy win. Okay, so... wow, that was easy. Okay. Right, same guy. Alright, slowly climbing. Yep, this Cloyster M matchup is not great, but you know, so I try to play as aggressively as I can with the Pursuit Tyranitar. Yeah, unfortunately, I got the max rolls over here, but through some outplaying and you know, some luck from Gligar expectedly, right? I mean, yep, won the game. Okay, here are some friendly battles. I'm not going to care about that. Yeah, I kind of started out by, you know, just wanting to click on ladder, and so I just sacrificed the Fortress even though it was so clear that there was a Magneton behind. But, you know, because Cacturne is just amazing, right? I got the win. This is my first loss, and it's a special offense, and on hindsight I should really have just hit Sing over here. I didn't understand why I didn't do that. And so yeah, I lost. But you know, every team has bad matchups, so can't win against everything. Right, Drake Seaward. Well, I also goof here because like, you know, I was just taking it turn by turn, still at a rather low elo. Yeah, I didn't intend to actually top the ladder. I thought I would fall to like 1,400 or something. So I didn't catch the Gengar. Wasn't playing this that seriously. And to be honest, I totally deserved to lose here, but like after a few outplays and some lucky hits, I got into a winning position. Yep. Alright, this is just a random ladder team. Right, this is the same game I featured, so I'm not going to run through it. So this guy just ended up using the team that I posted in my previous video, and obviously I knew how to deal with it, and it helped that I had Roar Swampert, so you know, the ninjas just couldn't do anything. This is a friendly game. Okay, let's go here. Yeah, I did make a wrong read over here, but I got a crit, so I feel I outplayed the entire game though. This one was featured just now, I wouldn't go through it. So this was my first crushing loss on this account. I was actually up early, I was up early game, but I made this mistake of not trying to EQ Metagross down, because in my head I would just be I thought I would just use Gligar, but I got greedy at the end. I wanted to just get Swampert in to try to take a mash and protect up. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Also, at this point I hadn't EV'd my Gligar properly, so I couldn't even use like 5 subs, and even though Meteor Mash is kind of inaccurate, I calculated something like 15% chance to hit through all that, but like he got it, so yeah, really crushing defeat for me. This is Ion Exted, I won't reveal it. This was featured just now. Okay. We have an interesting ladder team over here with an offensive Milotic. And he got the burn on Gligar. It feels like I'm the one getting Sandveiled or Hexed. But as you will soon see, getting the Thunder Wave on Milotic makes it a lot less robust. And yep, and I thought I was basically losing by this time, but it seems like with 3 spikes anything goes, and with the paralysis, Milotic is not going to get past it, not going to get past Blissey. So I stopped the Super Rachi, yeah, and I win. Some friendly games. Well, when I saw Venusaur, I was really scared because I just don't know what to do with it. I'm so slow, and I think it's even faster than my Gligar, when I haven't put like 286 speed on it yet. Well, fortunately I pursued the Cloyster away. Yep, and I T-waved the Venusaur, which means that Cacturne can now hex it down. And yeah, a win. So this is the last battle before just before I top the ladder, and it's really funny because he ends up using Cacturne, so it's a Cacturne versus Cacturne battle, and for the most part I was actually up, but I accidentally let this T-Tardy because I thought it was I thought it was a Pursuit Tar, like just because I thought it was just like my team. Well, but this is the moment where Cacturne just shows how annoying it is. I just got a free Focus Punch into the Tyranitar and won just that way. So anyway, well, it wasn't a sure win because I still had Gligar and T-Wave Tar. But it just shows you how silly Cacturne and Gligar can be. And so here you have it, 1656, and this is the top of the ladder. Yep, so here's the screenshot that I took when I topped the ladder. Yep, the ladder's getting ever more competitive. People are just getting higher and higher ratings. So I'm happy that I made it up here. And the GXC is kind of interesting because, you know, in Chinese culture, 8 is considered a lucky number, and what more a lucky number for a team that's based on luck. So I hope you enjoy this video. I don't know what I think of banning Sandville yet, to be honest. I mean, I think it can be uncompetitive sometimes, but to me, it's really Gligar that really snowballs. You know, if it gets the extra sword stance, it's kind of winning. But at the same time, it's not the fastest thing in the world. You know, most teams have a way to outspeed Gligar. And well, not most teams, but at least some teams do. So it is definitely a matchup fishy Pokemon, but yeah, I don't know about. I don't have the most solid opinions on whether or not Sandville or Gligar or Cacturne should be banned. Anyway, do leave your comments. I hope you liked the video, and see you again.